Good evening. I would like to call to order the February 17, 2026 Little Rock City Board of Directors meeting. We would like to welcome those in attendance as well as those watching at home or streaming online. Madam Clerk, if you would, please call the roll.
Director Miller, Director Richardson, Director Webb, Director Peck, Director Hines, Director Lewis, Director Compuris, Director Phillips, Director Adcock, Vice Mayor Wyrick, Mayor Scott.
Present. We'll now ask Director Phillips to give us a prayer.
Everyone just humble themselves for a moment. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to serve the city of Little Rock. We ask for your guidance and protection for all who do so. It's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen.
Amen. May y'all please stand for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have three modifications for today's agenda, M1, M2, and M3 to the consent agenda. Is there a motion? There's a motion. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the consent agenda along with M1 through M3.
A resolution to transfer title property to Miss Newcomb LLC from the City of Little Rock to be used for neighborhood revitalization programs and for other purposes. A resolution authorized the city manager to enter into a lease and service agreement with Safe Haven Baby Boxes Incorporated for the placement and installation of a designated newborn safety device at Little Rock Fire Department Fire Station Number 9 and for other purposes. A resolution authorized the city manager to enter into a subaward agreement with Bloomberg Philanthropies and Johns Hopkins University to accept $60,000 in additional grant funds to provide the administrative needs of the support position with the City of Little Rock Love Your Block project in wards 1, 2, 6, and 7, and for other purposes. A resolution authorized the offering of capital improvement revenue bonds to refund the city's outstanding taxable promissory note dated May 22nd, 2024, setting April 7th, 2026 as the date for public hearing to consider the issuance of such bonds and for other purposes. A resolution authorized the city manager to enter into a contract with Selectron Technologies Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $94,774.95 plus applicable taxes and fees for the software and information technology upgrades for the Planning and Development Department and for other purposes. A resolution to set March 3rd, 2026 as the date of public hearing on the request to abandon a portion of West 41st Street, a portion of Loncoy Street, and all other portion of 2 alley right-of-ways located near the southeast corner of John Barrow Road and West 40th Street, City of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. A resolution is set March 3rd, 2026 as a date for public hearing on whether to establish Chenal Valley Municipal Property Owners Multi-Purpose Improvement District Number 2026-01 and for other purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a licensing agreement provided by Mythics LLC through Mastic Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $4,294,718.40 plus universal service credits for a term not to exceed 84 months for the Oracle Fusion software application, a new enterprise resource planning system, and for other purposes. A resolution to identify the sitting commissioners of the Little Rock Housing Authority doing business as the Metropolitan Housing Alliance and for other purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the grouped items for the first time.
An ordinance to amend the land use plan map in the Bull Park Planning District, Lot 18 of the Hobson and Sachs addition from office to neighborhood commercial and for other purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a planned office development titled Snell Northcutt Electric POD located at 13401 Canis Road, City of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development and to establish a planned development residential titled Thomas Property Group, PDR, located at 2201 Rock Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a plan development commercial titled LLTM LLC STR2 PDC located at 220 North Monroe Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a plan development commercial titled Hope Annie LLC STR2 PDC located at 909 South Pulaski Street, City of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a plan development commercial titled Miles Number 1 SGR2 PDC located at 2819 South Gain Street, City of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a plan development commercial titled Miles Number 2 SCR2 PDC located at 3401 Lamar Street, City of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance reclassifying property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a plan development commercial titled Lotus 678 Trust SCR2 PDC located at 7324 West Markham Street, City of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. First reading.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to amend the land use plan map in the Bull Park Planning District, Lot 18 of the Hobson and Sachs addition from office to neighborhood commercial. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a planned office development titled Snell Northcutt Electric POD located at 13401 Canis Road. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a planned development residential titled Thomas Property Group PDR located at 2201 Rock Street. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a plan development commercial titled LLTM LLC STR2 PDC located at 220 North Monroe Street. An ordinance reclassifying property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a plan development commercial titled Hope Annie LLC STR2 PDC located at 909 South Pulaski Street. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a plan development commercial titled Miles Number 1 SCR2 PDC located at 2819 South Gain Street. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a plan development commercial titled Miles Number 2 SCR2 PDC located at 3401 Lamar Street. An ordinance reclassifying property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a plan development commercial titled Lotus 678 Trust STR2 PDC located at 7324 West Markham Street. Second reading.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Third and final reading.
An ordinance to amend the land use plan map in the Bull Park Planning District, Lot 18 of the Hobson and Sachs addition from office to neighborhood commercial. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a planned office development titled Snell Northcutt Electric POD located at 13401 Canis Road. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a planned development residential titled Thomas Property Group PDR located at 2201 Rock Street. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a planned development commercial titled LLTM LLC STR2 PDC located at 220 North Monroe Street. An ordinance to reclassifying property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a planned development commercial titled Hope Annie LLC STR2 PDC located at 909 South Pulaski Street. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a planned development commercial titled Miles Number 1 STR2 PDC located at 2819 South Gain Street. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a planned development commercial titled Miles Number 2 SCR2 PDC located at 3401 Lamar Street. An ordinance reclassifying property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development to establish a planned development commercial titled Lotus 678 Trust SCR2 PDC located at 7324 West Markham Street. Third and final reading.
Members of the board, we've had 3 readings. Before we take the vote, on particular item number 8, we do have some cards against and some for, so we'll just make sure these individuals are heard before we take a vote. We'll start with Nicholas Lane, and then Brian Dale after that. Oh, actually, I'm looking at the wrong one. Hold on one second. Well, because you defer? Okay. Are you all going to defer to Mr. Tucker? Okay. All right. So we'll do that, and then so it'll just be Mr. Tucker and Mr. Dale. Mr. Tucker. Now, Mr. Tucker, while they all defer to you, we don't
Yes.
want you to take it all the time.
Okay, I'll try not to.
I'm just joking.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of the board. I wasn't able to provide a virtual presentation, but I have some printouts that I'd like
You
to
can just
pass around.
give it
if
to
that's all
our clerk's team. No, just give it to the clerk. They'll handle it for you. Oh, you want to give one too? You may begin.
All right, thank you. My name is Peter Tucker, and I live on White Road. I'm here today to talk on behalf of myself, as well as my fellow neighbors that live on White Road. You can see on the first sheet in front of you as you get it, there is a little map that has all of our names and signatures. There are also a few of us here today. If y'all want to stand or just wave, thanks. Out of respect for your time, we've tried to condense our comments down to just this one presentation. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to ask you not for a full denial, but rather for a deferral with a requested change to the plan. We're not trying to completely stop development. We understand that it needs to go on, but we do feel that a change is needed to what's been proposed to enable the development to be compatible with our neighborhood. If you don't mind turning to page 2, I'll explain our point of contention with what's being proposed. As you can see in the left-hand graphic, White Road is a short, dead-end street. It's sandwiched in between other established neighborhoods, with Taylor Park to the west of us and Teton Valley to the east of us. Our road does not connect to any other neighborhoods, and because of that, we function as our own distinct neighborhood. The applicant has an existing business, which is indicated in the first graphic with the yellow star. As part of this proposal, he wishes to expand his business space to the lot to the east, and then expand that lot further south along our road, as shown in the green portion of the right-hand graphic. We are not against this part of the proposal. We're happy for his business's success, and we welcome him to the neighborhood. However, we are in heavy opposition to the second part of this plan, which is shown in red on the right-hand graphic. With this portion of land, the applicant proposes to subdivide the remaining 0.6 acres into 3 separate residential lots. And based on existing city ordinances, we feel that it is best to restrict that development to no more than 1 single-family residential lot. On page 3, you'll find an image of what White Road feels like today. When you turn down our road off of Canis, you drop down a small hill, and to me at least, it feels like a breath of fresh air as you leave the busyness of the city at the top of that hill. The first thing you'll notice on our road are the large mature trees towering overhead that spread throughout the neighborhood. The greenery surrounds you. It reminds you that you're in the natural state, and it gives a feeling of calmness and peace that only nature can provide. Trees aren't just decorations in our neighborhood. They're a defining feature that makes our neighborhood what it is. The second thing you might notice in our neighborhood is the road. We're a small dead-end road, so we don't require much. The road isn't wide enough for 2 cars to pass, so we often have to pull partway into a neighbor's yard to let each other pass. God forbid you're running late on a Wednesday morning and get caught behind the garbage can. That happens to me sometimes. On the right-hand side of the picture, you can see one of the houses in our neighborhood. All houses in our neighborhood are oriented such that the broad side of the building faces the road, meaning that from the road you can see the full length of the house and not the narrow end. The houses on our road were constructed over many years, so they have some slightly different facades, but the general scale and the orientation of the houses with respect to the road is what gives the neighborhood a cohesive look and feel from the top to bottom. The orientation also puts porches and windows primarily on the front and the rear of each house, which encourages neighborly conversation and allows parents to keep a close eye on children from inside and outside their house. And then that brings us to the yards. Each yard on our street provides more space to the properties than any of the buildings that sit on each property. They allow breathing room between neighbors and ample space for gardens to grow, dogs to run and play fetch, and children to play games like hide and go seek. When my wife and I were house hunting a few years back, we discussed that one of the desires at the top of our wish list was that we wanted a house and a property that drew us outside, out to nature, out to the fresh air, to activities outside. And that was the primary factor that brought us to White Road and why we purchased on the road. So the mature trees, the yard space, and the house orientation are the key features that define the character of our neighborhood. On page 4, you can see the contrast between the existing properties in our neighborhood and the type of development that's being proposed with 3 0.2 acre lots. The image at the bottom of the page shows a representative house and lot in the neighborhood, and the image on the top right shows 3 houses on similar width lots as to what's being proposed by the applicant. Each of the 3 lots proposed is less than 1/5 the size of even the smallest existing lot on White Road. This presents not an incremental change, but a dramatic shift in the development density within our neighborhood. While I believe that lots of this scale can function well in other neighborhoods alongside similar-sized lots, we do not believe that these lots would provide adequate space for any type of residential development that would be compatible with the established character of our neighborhood. The 3 houses shown at the top of the page are on par with the size of homes on White Road, but with the lot sizes available, they're squeezed together and forced to face the road with their short side rather than their long side. In order to even fit modest houses like these on lots of this size, the buildings must cover the majority of the lot, leaving little space for the yards. I think these yards could be adequate for small gardens, but they wouldn't provide the same opportunities for families and pet owners that other lots in the neighborhood do. In addition, there are no public parks or open spaces within walking distance from the location of these proposed lots. And while I would hope that at least some of the mature trees could be saved on these lots, the reality that we've witnessed with other neighborhoods around us is that lots like these are usually clear-cut when preparing the lots for construction, which would instantly make these lots stand out from the rest of the neighborhood. In addition, introducing development of this density on such a narrow road can only add to the inherent congestion that we already face on the road. And unfortunately, these lots would be located at the bottleneck of our road, which is our only entrance and exit out of the neighborhood. On page 5, I've provided a snippet of the city's code of ordinances, specifically chapter 36, article 7, section 36-451. The section pertains to the general purpose of the article that sets the criteria for planned developments, such as the planned office development that's being proposed here today. Item C says in part, it is the intent of this article to assure that applications for planned unit development and planned development are not granted for the sole benefit of the applicant, but are used to establish developments that, number 2, are harmonious with the character of the neighborhood, and number 5, create a desirable and stable environment. Item D says in part, it is also the intent of this article to encourage, number 1, superior development and redevelopment, which is more desirable than that which would occur through strict application of this chapter and chapter 31 of this code. And that's referring to the zoning ordinance and the subdivision ordinance chapters. Now, I'm no lawyer and I don't play one on TV. I believe that each of you probably know more and understand more about this than I do. I'm sure Mr. Carpenter probably knows more than all of us. But what I want to do is I want to go out on a limb and kind of summarize what I take away from this. And I understand there might be more to the picture, and I welcome discussion on it. My intent here is to show you that we have done our best to do our homework before we bring this request to you. We contend that not only would the 3 proposed lots not allowed for development that could be harmonious with the neighborhood's character, but that the size and orientation alone of each lot would limit them to development that is in a stark contrast to our neighborhood's established character. This, along with the drastic difference in development density that's being proposed, does not encourage a desirable or stable environment, as evidenced by our presence here in front of you today. And while these 3 lots might technically meet the minimum standards set forth in the zoning and subdivision ordinances, we believe that this development would contradict the intent of Chapter 36, Article 7, and would not live up to the superior development that this article encourages. On the last page is where I'll make our final ask and wrap up. I wanted to find out what options we could ask you to consider for this development review process. Like I said before, we're not trying to completely stop development. We welcome the applicant. We understand that development's going to happen. So continuing in Chapter 36, Article 7, and now I've jumped down to Section 36-454, which describes this application review procedure. Item C, number 4, says in part, the Board of Directors may defer for requested changes or more information. So that is what I would like to respectfully ask for you to consider today. Please consider giving the applicant a clear directive to change the plan such that there is no more than 1 single-family residential lot designed per R2 residential zoning standards. If for some reason that is not a valid option for you all to take, then we would respectfully request that you consider a full denial. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your service to the city.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. We'll now have Mr. Brian Dale.
Thank you, Mayor. Board members, good evening. I'm Brian Dale with Joe White and Associates. We represent this application this evening. To give a little bit of history.
Mr. Dale, if you'll bring the microphone closer to your mouth, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A little bit of history is when we went through the Planning Commission, the neighbors had several requests. We took a deferral. We worked with them. We worked with staff to change the project and make it a little bit better. We're not taking any access to White Road or the street that they are on. Staff worked with us we've directed all access to Canis Road. We're doing the street improvements to Canis Road that are required. We kept the residential equal to the Taylor Park residential neighborhood that's to our west. So the northern half, or a little over half, is the office part of this project. The southern portion is the residential to line up with Taylor Park. So we were trying to fit the neighborhoods between us. We did request 3 60-foot wide lots that are 140 feet deep. They do exceed the city's minimum standards for residential R2 lots. The developer is, we have not final platted them. If he gets an offer to buy it all as one lot, he'll sell it as one lot. If he gets an offer to sell it as 2 wider lots, he'll do that. It depends on who his buyer is. In working through that, we got staff support. We went through the Planning Commission and we got a 10-0 vote. So that is how we got to you this evening. We have met with them. We have conceded several things and worked with staff closely to get to where we are today. The client would respectfully request that we get the 3 residential lots approved as part of the POD this evening. We would love to answer have the developer with me, Riley Hayes. He did not fill out a card. He didn't know he had to, but he is here to speak if you guys have any questions for him. But we're here to answer any questions that you may have for us.
All right, I think we just got Director Lewis, and then that's it as far as commentary, and Director Adcock. Director Lewis?
I have a question. I want to make sure I'm really understanding. When you say, he has an opportunity to sell as one full lot or up to three, it's not set in stone for the three? We're just basically waiting on offers that come?
That is correct, ma'am. Right now, we have just preliminarily platted or proposed 3 lots. And the history with staff has been that if we want to reduce the number of lots, we can do that at staff level, but we cannot increase the number of lots. So if he would have proposed 1 lot and then had 3 different buyers, we would be coming back through this entire process again. So we requested the maximum, hoping that we get the minimum. So there is a chance that he ends up with just 1 buyer.
Okay. Are you encouraging that, or? Yes, are you encouraging less than the 3?
I haven't really, excuse me, I'm sorry.
State your name and address for the record.
Riley Hayes, this is for 13423 Canis, is my business address next door. I haven't entertained it yet. I'm trying to get through this process before I, put it before me.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
Director Adcock?
For the owner, would you consider tonight saying 1 single-family home on each lot?
On each of the 3 residential lots?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we will do 1 single-family home on each of the 3 lots.
That's what
Okay.
it is now, but we're trying to go under 3.
Is that what the neighborhood wants?
The
Okay.
neighborhood would like one residential lot entirely, I believe. Am I stating that correctly, Peter?
Okay.
Mayor, y'all need to be careful here. This is a plan development. The applicant has asked for 3. This is not a place to bargain. Right now, your choices are to accept it or reject it unless they volunteer to make a change to the application, and then y'all do that as amendment. But you can't really ask for amendments.
And also, just from parliamentary procedure, members of the board, we've had, this wasn't an issue last week during our agenda meeting because it was on the agenda. We had a 10-0 vote from the planning commission, so no one on the city board requested it come off of grouped items. So it's an up or down vote for everything on group items. So I just want to be very clear.
Well, Mayor, we had not heard from the neighborhood last week. And maybe that's the neighborhood's fault that they had not contacted each of us, but this board had not heard from the neighborhood last week. Tonight's our first opportunity to hear this opportunity to do this, to keep with the neighborhood looking the way that they would like to have it looked.
No, totally understand. It's the process. So, there's a parliamentary process on how we do it. So we're just following that. All right, we've had 3 readings. Director Miller?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I want to ask Brad a question. Brad, do you remember the Michael Orndorff development on Hanger Street?
I do, yes, sir.
What was
There's
that?
been several, but
Yeah, the one where it's going to put 4 houses on 1 lot?
yeah, and I think he was not going to have off-street parking either
Right.
for that.
And the neighborhood didn't want it, right? The neighborhood was there, they didn't want that, they didn't want that development. And so this board voted to let that development go forward, as I recall. Those 4 houses on that 1 lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is this what I'm looking at? Is this the type of?
No, sir.
How's this different?
This would be just a regular, actually probably a larger R2 sized home. Most of the square footage, I think the smallest square footage of these 3 lots is 8,400 square feet. So that's definitely larger than what a normal R2 lot would be.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 17 for the first time.
An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid to authorize the city manager to enter into a fifth contract amendment with Sound Thinking Incorporated, formerly ShotSpotter Incorporated, in an amount not to exceed $149,500 for the annual renewal of the wide area gunshot detection, respond, and API subscription services for the Little Rock Police Department and for other purposes. First reading.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, second reading.
An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid to authorize the city manager to enter into a fifth contract amendment with Sound Thinking Incorporated, formerly ShotSpotter Incorporated, in an amount not to exceed $149,500 for the annual renewal of the wide area gunshot detection, respond, and API subscription services for the Little Rock Police Department. Second reading.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, third and final reading.
An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid to authorize the city manager to enter into a fifth contract amendment with Sound Thinking Incorporated, formerly ShotSpotter Incorporated, in an amount not to exceed $149,500 for the annual renewal of the wide area gunshot detection, respond, and API subscription services for the Little Rock Police Department. Third and final reading.
Members of the board, we've had 3 readings. We have 1 card and then 1 board member who is clicked on their hand. Ms. Lorna Cross.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lorna Cross. I'm from Midtown Neighborhood Association. Oh, yes. Sorry. I'm Lorna Cross, and I'm from the Midtown Neighborhood Association, which is in between Monroe Streets and Pine Streets. So I was informed by our director, Director Miller, about the possibility of you all discontinuing the ShotSpotter in my neighborhood. For the Midtown Association, we would prefer that you continue the contract because it is better to have that. We have some sense of protection when there are noises in the neighborhood. We would prefer to have that protection, to know that the police are on the way to find out what is going on. Fortunately and unfortunately, in our neighborhood, I'm one of the nosiest neighbors in the neighborhood, and my kids have a hard time keeping my head inside the door when I hear stuff. When I hear stuff, I don't want to stick my head outside, but I also don't want a body just laying out in the street or somebody's car getting shot up. That's not fun. So having the ShotSpotter in our neighborhood gives us some semblance of relief, that knowing that security is there. We would prefer that this contract continues. Please and thank you.
All right, Director Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is, I will not, shout out to my pastor at New Creation Bible Church, who teaches us on Sundays that you don't have to go long to go strong. So shout out to my pastor for that. So I won't be long on this because I think my colleagues know how I feel about this issue, but I do want to restate some things for the record. Number one, to be clear, I appreciate Ms. Cross and those who live in that neighborhood and those who are supportive of this. I, too, am supportive of Little Rock Police Department. I'm grateful for their service for me individually as a citizen of Little Rock and for us as a city as whole. I'm supportive of Little Rock Police Department having the tools and the resources that they need to do their job effectively and have tools that are effective. I don't think ShotSpotter 2 is an effective use of resource. Just as a reminder, from my colleagues. When we first started this, it was on a national grant for us to use these dollars to try this out, to see how it works. And we did that for multiple renewals, and last year was the first time that the money actually came out of the city coffers. And that's where I became a little more vocal about how I feel about this. Before I get into any details into the contract, I want to just make sure I'm clear on one thing from the city attorney. Mr. Carpenter, this contract that we signed with them originally, this is just a renewal, so none of the terms of the contract have changed. Is that accurate?
Right. This is I think it's the first year of renewal, and you've got 3 more after this.
Right, but the same terms that we saw last year. All right. I just want to remind my colleagues of the terms of the contract. In Article 8 of the contract, there's a disclaimer, and it says that ShotSpotter we do not warrant or represent expressly or implicitly that the service or its use will result in the prevention of crime or hostile enemy action, the prevention or apprehension or conviction of any perpetrator of any crime, military prosecution of any enemy force, or detection or neutralization of any criminal, combatant, or threat. They do not warrant that this technology will prevent any loss, death, injury, or damage to the property due to the discharge of a firearm or other weapon. In all cases, result in a review alert for all firearms discharged within the designated coverage area will be reviewed by ShotSpotter network. And I probably read more than what I should, but the heart of that is that in the contract that we're about to renew, this company is telling us that they do not do what we think it does. I think that's important. I shared this last year, and I'm sharing it again. We have a contract where they said we don't do that. And then we're going to say, yes, we do that. They're telling us they don't do that. I'm not sure how we can ignore that and use city dollars to support it. Last thing I'll say, 2 last things. Last thing, that we would not be the first city to look at this differently. Other cities across the country have tried ShotSpotter, realized that it wasn't as effective or a good use of dollars as they intended. So cities like Portland, Charlotte, Durham, the list goes on. I think there's over 50 cities now that did have ShotSpotter that no longer has it. So I want my colleagues to know, I want the public to know, I do not think this is a good use of resources for our police department. I want them to have effective tools that actually do what we think that they're doing so they can do their job. ShotSpotter is not that tool, in my opinion, so I will, again, be voting no on this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Phillips. Director Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. Let me say thank you, Ms. Cross, for coming to express your feelings about this system. As you know, I'm the Ward 1 Director. ShotSpotter is in a specific area in Ward 1. That area includes the Goodwill neighborhood, the Hope neighborhood, the Midtown neighborhood, Fair Park neighborhood. I've had a chance to speak with Mr. Sedelia Goulet, who is the president of the Goodwill neighborhood. He wants the system renewed. I had a chance to speak with Irma Peterson, the president of the Hope neighborhood. She wants the system renewed. I had a chance to speak with Gary Iverson, president of the Fair Park neighborhood. He wants the system renewed. When ShotSpotter goes off, it means somebody has possibly shot a gun. That ain't gonna stop nobody from creating a crime. ShotSpotter is not there to stop somebody from shooting a gun. It's there to alert the police department that a gun may have been discharged. A lot of people don't like to call 911. They get scared. They don't want to get involved. But when they hear something that sounds like gunshots, and I'm talking to the people that live in this neighborhood, they want to see that the police have responded. If it's a firecracker, if it's a back of a car going off, they don't know, but they feel safer when they see it's being responded to. Again, it's not going to stop somebody from shooting a gun. Not at all. That's not what this system is intended to do. The neighborhood feels safer with this technology. They don't want it to go away. And I'm going to vote for this technology. I'm going to support the people in this neighborhood that want this technology. And I would ask my fellow board members to vote in favor of this and support the neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, Director Capiris.
Thank you, Mayor. I will go along with what Virgil said, and you know, in my practice of medicine, people come in all the time and they read Dr. Google, and Dr. Google will say this or that. But what I have to do is take that information and understand the situation and make the best decision for the patient. And in this situation, I have to believe the police chief and the people under him want to have this equipment to help them. And as Yogi Berra said, it's deja vu all over again. What the chief said to us last time is exactly what Virgil said. It doesn't prevent someone from firing a gun, but it does, in his opinion, help him solve crimes. Now, he was very careful to say, I'm not going to tell you how it does, because if I do tell you how it does, then the people that are permitting the crimes will know how to get out of the deal. So then it is one of those things where I'm going to be very supportive of him and the police department right now and support this with Virgil, and I hope everybody else, because I think it's the right thing to do. I believe Chief Helton that he thinks it works, and from what he's told me privately, this is great information that he gets from this, and it works well for him in this community. So thank you.
Vice Mayor Wyatt.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to be supportive of this also. I go to neighborhood meetings and they're constantly talking about shots fired in their neighborhood. Well, if they're outside of this particular ShotSpotter application, all they can do is, well, I think I heard it to my left or to my right. They have no idea where the gunshot may be coming from. So therefore, in the priority list from 911, it goes to a lower level. If you're in the ShotSpotter area, it becomes a high priority, priority 1 or 2, and police are dispatched to that area. I think it's a good tool. The police chief was here last year talking to us about it, and I asked him, the reason it went into this particular location was because they had a lot of complaints about shots being fired. And I asked him at that point, I said, do we still have this being a high shot area? And he said, it is the highest. And so the need is still there. It's a notification tool is what it is. It gives the police department a place to go, where if you're in the hinterlands and other neighborhoods, they don't have a clue where they're supposed to go. All they know is somebody called, shots fired, and so they come out, but they have no way to understand where the application is notifying. So I'm going to support this. I think it's a good tool. And I'm with Virgil and Dean on this. Thank you.
Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Is somebody from the police department here to answer a
Yes, I believe Assistant Chief Dyer is here. Yeah, and I believe also Lieutenant Bewley. All right, they can hear. They're somebody. I'm sure they're deciding who's going to come. I think they can hear. Director Howard, can you go see if they can hear? I don't know if the TV works in that office. Should work. Oh. Oh, I thought it was just Chief Dyer. Chief Eldon's here. Yeah. Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor Scott. And I just have one question, one
Yes, ma'am.
comment. I mean, I have a neighborhood that's next door to the Midtown neighborhood, and I spoke to the president of that neighborhood this afternoon, who is supportive of it, and I'm inclined to be supportive. I voted for it and I voted against it. But I do have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
I got something from the ACLU, and in that it said that because there's an assumption, oftentimes there's an assumption when it goes off that there would be someone who's armed and dangerous in the neighborhood. There is a concern that police behavior might be different when they go in, and it would have a negative effect on police behavior. I know training is one of your really big things, and so before I voted, I just wanted to ask you that question and get your assessment. Do you believe it causes a negative effect on police behavior?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I think our officers do it provides a heightened state of awareness that you need to be aware this is going on. But that's any call. I mean, let's really think about it. Every call that an officer goes to, a gun is in play. Do we agree? Why? Because that officer's armed. There's always a gun in play no matter what call we go to. It could be the cat in the tree, the kid that got hit by a car. There is always a gun in play in every incident we go to. But we train our officers to be professionals, do what's right. Do bad things happen? Yeah, they do. Sometimes because our own fault, we didn't do the right things. We've seen things like that around the country take place. But at the Little Rock Police Department, we do an outstanding job of training our officers. We harp it over and over and over again, sometimes to the point where I think some of them get exhausted by hearing it. But it's something that's terribly important. And I stress accountability. And I'm standing before you as the chief of police in front of this board. I stress accountability. If our people are out of line and they screw up, we violate the law, they will be held accountable. I think I've shown that. I think I've proven that. So, you're always going to find a report that will give you the pros and cons for everything inside. I can tell you this equipment has been valuable to the Little Rock Police Department. It's not going to prevent crime. It is a tool. It is a tool just like that patrol car. It's a tool like the computer that goes in that car. It's a tool like the light bar. It's a tool like our mounted patrol officers. It's a tool like that bicycle. I can go on and on and on for hours to talk about all the tools that we have. That's what gives us the opportunity to get out here, be proactive, be professional, and be able to accomplish our jobs to the fullest capabilities that we can. And for an agency that we continue to have staffing challenges, that technology that you all have approved has been very beneficial in us in kind of supplementing the vacancies that we've had. Because without that technology that's been in place, I would really hate to tell you what we would look like.
Thanks, Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all.
Director Peck?
Thank you. Thank you. I don't have any questions for you.
No.
I will just reiterate what I said the last time I voted. I would never, ever question the LRPD when you all say this tool is something important. That would be like you coming into my kitchen, so you need this Vitamix blender or these knives or this Vinahood because of this. So I would never second guess you, so I'm fully supportive. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I'll tell the board, I'm always looking at ways that we can get better as an organization. I think that's part of the job of being a chief or any department head. You always look at what you can do to get better. And as we can explore what the future is going to look like, I mean, I've seen what the future's coming. I've seen all the new tech that's out there. There are things that maybe down the road look better for us. And when that time comes to make that decision, we will make an honest decision to present to the board items that we believe is going to continue to make us better as a department. Because at the end of the day, it's how we impact the quality of life for the people within our community and how we continue to help this city thrive and be the best place that it can be. And that's what we're going to do. And that's what we're committed to doing. So I don't take the tax dollars for granted. I think my staff will tell you, I'm always on them about making sure we're doing the right thing with every dollar that we get and make sure we're putting the best product out there available. So, and before, I think you've got a question, Director Phillips, but before that happens, I want to give Lieutenant Bewley the opportunity to come up and give you a little bit of data. I know you asked for a report. I'll have that for you here by the end of the week. I'm in just the process of trying to finalize make sure it's all pretty. So, but I do want Lieutenant Bewley to come forward and provide you all with some details. So, Lieutenant Bewley.
And after Lieutenant Bewley, Director Phillips and Director Adcock.
I saw you lean forward and grab the mic, so I thought you could read this question.
No.
Hi, everybody. I know last week you had asked for some numbers, so I have some numbers for you guys related to our usage of ShotSpotter this year. So in 2025, we had 793 total gunfire incidents that were detected, which equated to 3,284 rounds from those 793 activations. So last year, a big thing that you guys asked of us was to provide you with some information on, are we finding evidence that this is legitimate gunfire? We were enabled with a new feature to the platform in this last year called Ground Truth. And so that is something that has allowed my detectives to complete follow-up investigations to find out, did we find some sort of evidence at that location? And in 2025, we had a 33.8% rate where ground truth was documented. That could range anywhere from a shell casing being recovered, a victim showing up with a gunshot wound, an officer in the area heard the incident, rarely, but occasionally another person calling in 911 saying that they heard something, or we show up, there's property damage, abandoned house is now shot up. So there's a multitude of different ways in which we would calculate that ground truth evidence. Last year, we recovered 174 shell casings. We located 21 victims. We rendered aid to 11 people on scene. We arrested 13 individuals related to ShotSpotter activations. And I would say that it is likely higher than that, but that is 13 individuals that my detectives, through follow-up information, were able to locate, that we knew that someone was arrested in relation to the ShotSpotter activation within 48 hours or so of that crime. We located 94 calls where a witness was potentially located, whether that be someone on scene. And just because we saw them doesn't mean that they called. We will often show up and the officers will canvass the area and someone will say, oh yeah, I heard that, but they didn't call. There were 63 corresponding 911 calls. 10 of these were homicide incidents. 32 of them were automatic gunfire incidents. We recovered 6 firearms, and other evidence is listed as 26, so usually a lot of times that's house shot up, car shot up, something like that. I would encourage you to not downplay that 33.8%. There are a lot of reasons why we might not find a shell casing. Revolvers, they don't expel shell casings. You're not going to find revolvers. They're shells after they're done. People know that we have this. People know that we can test casings. People pick up their firearm shell casings. We had a call last week at Auxer Arms Apartments. Someone is outside shooting a gun in the air, and the caller said they're out here picking up their shell casings because they know that that is evidence in a crime. If you're shooting out of a vehicle, potentially your shell casings are going to be inside of that vehicle. It will tell us that something is happening in a vehicle, so that can be one of the things that we can attribute to why maybe something's not there. And then there's also a lot of instances where it's one round. One round in the middle of the night in an abandoned area during the snow, something like that. There are instances where maybe we won't find that one shell casing. And the last one I wanted to share statistics-wise is last year our investigators in the Major Crimes Division utilized 7 detailed forensic reports. So that's going to be additional information to just the ShotSpotter alert itself that those detectives can use to add to their case file that can be used in the proceedings when they end up going to court. I will tell you the 2 homicides this year have occurred within the ShotSpotter area. The first one was at 13th and Woodrow. The second one was on Brown. No one called us about the man who was murdered on Brown Street. He was found on a front porch. When the detectives talked to the person that lived in that house, they had no idea that that person was out there. They did not hear a shot. This was in the middle of a snowstorm. As you know, it snowed a lot here. We don't really deal with that very much. When crime scene showed up, they recovered a few shell casings. The homicide supervisors utilized the ShotSpotter app to go and find where the remaining shell casings were, some of which were already buried under the snow. But if you think back to what I said, no one called this in. This man was dead on someone's front porch. No one called it. If we wouldn't have had the ShotSpotter alert, it could have been hours or a day later before we found him, and we would have not been able to recover those shell casings, because you all know how deep that snow got and how long it sat there. So I think that's a pretty telling example of even just weeks ago that we used it.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Director Phillips and Director Adcock. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Lieutenant Bewley, for that data. Last year, we had this conversation. I've had conversation with the chief since that time and other members of the police department. Despite my concern about the effectiveness of the tool, I think I'm objective enough to understand that there are evidence or examples where this tool has been effective. I think we need to have those stories more. Like the public needs to hear that report from Lieutenant Bewley about the data and how we're using it. Now, does that change everyone's mind? Probably not.
Absolutely not.
I think I think we need to share that. People need to hear the story about what happened on Brown Street and how it was used. I'm with that 100%. I want to be clear on that. So I appreciate you telling the story today, and I hope we continue to tell the story on how we're using technology to keep us as citizens safe in the city of Little Rock. Number two, I want to thank you, Chief, for something you just said, which is you said, look, we're always looking at things, and if there is something else that we think is more effective than ShotSpotter and the use of taxpayer dollars, you'll bring that to us.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that. And if you find something, bring it, and we can vet it, talk about it, and then obviously the 10 of us gets to vote on whether to implement that or not. But thirdly, and I say this in response to my colleague, Director Peck, who's a friend, but I disagree that we don't get to question the police department. We question every other department. That doesn't mean we don't trust you. That doesn't mean you don't do your job well. It doesn't mean you don't have the hardest job in the city or the most important job in the city. But that doesn't mean everything the police department says, we say yes to. We don't do that with any other department. Every department comes to us once a year and say, we need X, Y, and Z. And everybody doesn't get X, Y, and Z. And the 10 of us are the only people in the city that gets to decide whether departments get X, Y, and Z.
I can verify that I don't get
No,
everything.
I know you don't.
So,
I know you
yeah.
don't get everything
Yeah.
either. But I'm responding to the comment that is if it's the police department, so whatever Chief Helton says and the police department says we have to do, and if you say no to it, then you're anti-police. So if that sentiment is anything I've said today or in days past, that's not the case. But it's my job as an elected official and as a policymaker for the city of Little Rock to ask these questions of you and every other department head on how we're using money for that department to do their job correctly. So I want you to know, I want your staff to know, I want my colleagues to know, I want the city of Little Rock to know that me questioning you doesn't mean you're doing a bad job or we don't trust you to do your job. But it's my job, at least in my opinion, to ask those questions and to make sure that we're using our tax dollars effectively based on what I've learned, heard, seen, and felt. I know we're all up on this board with different life experiences, and that's the beauty of it. But I want to be clear that I respect the police department and their job, but when I ask questions and say I don't think this is the most effective tool, that doesn't mean that I don't think the police department is effective or that for some reason I'm casting aspersion on you or your team, because I'm not doing that. So I want to be clear on that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm
Okay.
crystal on it. I'm crystal.
Okay.
You know,
All
and
right.
I think that's the beauty of the country we live in. Everybody has an opportunity to have a voice.
Right.
I
So
think that's great.
yeah. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the work of the police department, and I really appreciate that data. I think that's important. People need to hear it, and that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Phillips. Director Adcock?
Yes. Chief, last year after you was here, about every neighborhood meeting I went to, the question was, when can we have that? So you're here tonight, so I'm getting prepared because of the next few months, you'll be, when can we have that? Because people hear the lieutenant and hear you, and they want it for their neighborhood too. I was disappointed that we didn't add another neighborhood or another area this year, and maybe next year we can.
Well, I think that kind of depends on the board. So, you would love to be able to snap your finger and go over every square inch of the city. It's obviously fiscally not possible. Some areas don't require it. There's just not enough to justify that kind of expense. But I think it goes back to the statement that I made. As we continue to evaluate new technology, new things that are out there that can support us, support this community, that we feel like it can, and overall make it safe, protect the officers, and obviously help try to deter crime and things of that nature, then that's what we're going to go after. I think as the capital city, we should have the best of the best, because that's what I believe we should have. We are the capital, one of 50 in the nation, and we deserve that. Our community deserves that. So I'm always looking to what we can do to get better, and we'll continue to evaluate those. But I would love to be able to spread it, but obviously that depends on the board, and we have to make sure we're financially, respectable of the tax dollars that come in.
Well, you come next year with another area, and I'm one vote for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Also, I will tell you that we do have the best of the best in our officers, both the men and the women.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think we've heard all the commentary. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there a motion to adjourn? Before we, there was a second. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Director Hines. We do have citizens communication. Aubrey Buchanan. Well, thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Aubrey Buchanan. I'm a U.S. Navy combat veteran, born and raised in Arkansas, member of Allison Presbyterian, and hello, Mayor, how you doing? Also, First Pentecostal Church in North Little Rock. I had one of those monitors right next to my house on Broadmoor, and the police never came. As part of law enforcement, I would say, won't you take some of that money and put it into a anti-gang task force instead of those devices? Because if they're not effectively used, they're not going to be effective. The police never came to Broadmoor, where I lived, close to the red zones that Little Rock has off of Broadmoor and John Barrow and the Bullard Park. My name is Aubrey Buchanan. Like I stated, I'm a civil rights advocate and need to provide public notice to the city of Little Rock. This is in concordance with the U.S. CS Rules of Civil Procedures, as well as Rule 17 and Rule 20 of the United States Supreme Court. The Constitution of the United States has an overarching requirements that every state must follow. States cannot enact their own alternative legislation substituted for the guarantees of the Constitution of the United States. That would mean that the state laws are more powerful than the Constitution. That is unlawful. Clause 1 of Amendment 5 states no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment by grand jury. However, the state of Arkansas has enacted in its own alternative legislation that permits prosecuting attorneys and police officers to charge by way of information as opposed to indictment. That is unconstitutional. The emolument violations is when you pay a public office to break the law. The Constitution has two areas that enforce this. Article 1, Section 10 says, no state shall create any law that shall impair the obligation of contracts. Police officers, prosecuting attorneys, judges are all under the contract to perform based on the oath of or affirmations and that took to support and defend the Constitution. Contract perimeters are defined within the Constitution of the United States, and with the state enacts an inferior law that directs their agents to disobey the Constitution of the United States, that is a violation of Article 1, Section 10. The 14th Amendment is another place that you'll find reinforcement of this issue, and that is where the state states that no state shall create or enforce any law that shall abridge or privileges or immunities of United States citizens. The privileges and immunities of United States citizens are at a minimum, and those enumerated within the Bill of Rights in the first 10 commandments, yes. The 10 amendments. Unfortunately, the state of Arkansas has enacted a law in its inferior constitution that permits public office officials, judges, law enforcement officers whom he shall pay to violate the U.S. Constitution of the United States as enforcement officers. Yes.
You have a 3-minute time limit. But you can share what you have written with the clerk, and it'll be added to the record.
Okay. Well, I'm adding this to the record that
Ms. Aubrey,
that you've been served.
thank you so much. And thank you for your service as well.
Thank you.
All right, I think we did have Director Compiers. Did you have something?
Mayor, and really the Tom and Chief, can we have on next week the resolution to do the diet between Markham and Third Street that we've been talking about, that we passed, that we own the land, we said we're gonna do?
Yes.
Yes. I thought we already done it, but yes, yes.
It never, we said we're gonna do it, it never shows up.
Gotcha. We'll get it done.
Okay.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. And before we do that, I also wanted to do it earlier today, but just as with Little Rock being a cradle of the civil rights movement, to honor and recognize the life and legacy of civil rights icon, Reverend Jesse Jackson, all he did here as well in the city of Little Rock and across this nation and the world. There's a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.